system will not push the water back up into the refill tank. Okay, on the side here there's a little float switch. It sets an indicator light on the dash to tell you that you're out of water. Do not ever run your cell without water. You'll melt everything. Okay, so essentially what's happening here is our controller, just like we explained before. This is B plus on the top right as you're looking at the end of it. Okay, the power supply to the controller comes from the relay. It only gets power when the relay is switched on from the ignition. Okay, and the other side of the relay is connected to the power source on the battery. Power goes into the unit. Okay, does its custom program, making its 14.7 kilohertz pulse and feedback signal to the cell. Down here on the bottom left you have the B minus. B minus runs directly to the negative terminal of the battery. And you have M for motor, which is running the pulse signal to the negative end of the cell. You must never hook these up reverse. Your cell will not work and you can actually damage it. Okay. B plus sends positive end of the cell. How can you tell the difference? If your Sharpie lines come off that we send the cell with, look very carefully here. At the end of the cell you're going to see a little red silicone seal. When you see silicone on one end, that is the negative. On the other end you will not see silicone. That is the positive. In case the little markers that we put on there somehow get wiped off, that's the only way that you can tell which end is negative and positive. You must be sure before you hook this up. If you hook them up reverse, you're going to have all kinds of problems. Alright? So, the circulation pump turns on and should be only on when the relay is on. All your systems should shut off with your ignition switch. The circulation pump will pull the water out of the bottom of the bubbler up through the filter into the pump and pressurize it into the positive end of the cell. It circulates through the cell, creates a plasma. Plasma and water are ejected out of the negative end. So you have plasma and water running up. They're coming into the long end in the top of the bubbler. There's actually a tube running down in here that is ejecting water and bubbles into the bubbler. Thankfully, God has it set up that bubbles go up and water goes down. The water goes back through the circulation to be reused, and the gas rises to the top and comes out of the exit to your application, to whatever engine that you're applying this to. Okay. There's your water supply of distilled water only. We have a relay hooked up to the fill pump. There's a float switch in here. When the water level's where we want it, it shuts the pump off. If the water level drops, then it turns on the pump. The pump will then push it through the check valve into the system, but this builds up the pressure, so you can run it anywhere from 5 to 15 psi and you can't have that pushing back into your water container. Okay, move back a second to show you how we hook up the switches to the pumps. Okay, so we got the one end of the float switch. One end of the float switch. Where's it going?
To the negative side of the relay.
To the negative side of the relay.
Oh, there goes my heat shrink.
He's right there. So the float switch interrupts the ground.
Yep, I gotta get some rust on it. Here. Yep.
You can see right there, there's our relay. We have a fuse box here, which probably is a good idea. And there's a positive side going to the left side of the relay, and it'll go to the ground if the float switch allows it to. That's how it.
Yep, that's how it works. That way you can't overfill it. Even on manual, you can't overfill it.
Taking the time to solder these wires together. Professional installer. And heat shrinking. Okay, that's how you do it.
And I'll go right to there. These two wires are going here.
So there's pigtails. One ground for the LED lights inside the bubbler.
The LEDs have to be the right polarity, otherwise they don't come on.
And the other wire is the other wire coming out of the float switch, which is in the top of the bubbler. So again, two wires coming out of the top of the float switch. One goes to the chassis, the other one goes to the negative right or left side of the relay, right? Doesn't matter which way you do it.
Oh, you have to be on the ground of the relay.
Which is the right side. If you're looking at the back.
No, it doesn't
What
matter.
number is that? Doesn't matter?
No, it has to be the ground. There's only one ground on a relay. It has to be on the ground of the relay. That's it. There's no other.
What number is that?
I think it's 85.
85.
I think 85 is the number.
Okay, so again, this is a very critical point. We do not run current through the bubbler. Very dangerous. The switch must operate by interrupting the ground.
Yeah, you don't want to run positive current through the bubbler because it's negatively
That
grounded.
could be bad. That could trigger
Well,
an explosion.
No, it wouldn't trigger an explosion. It wouldn't because it's sealed. You know, the float switch is sealed, so it's not going to trigger anything. But it would put positive ions in there, and you don't want positive ions in there.
water. You'll melt everything. Okay, so essentially what's happening here is to the controller comes from the relay. It only gets power when the relay is switched on from the ignition. Okay, and the other side of the relay is our controller. Just like we explained before, this is B plus on the top right as you're looking at the end of it. Okay, the power supply system will not push the water back up into the refill tank. Okay, on the side here there's a little float switch. It sets an indicator light on the dash to tell you that you're out of water. Do not ever run your cell without